Russ, pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Start with the roll call.
Callahan. Here. Houston.
Here.
Hannah.
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Prusader.
Here.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen. Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Public comment, do we have any visitors today that have any public comments? Not hearing anything, we'll move to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, can I have a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following? It's the minutes from the July 25th, 2022 regular meeting, and also the special event application for the Blue Block Party, Saturday, September 17th, 2022, which is the Blue Buffalo, at the Blue Buffalo plant. Does anybody have that motion for me?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes 7-0. Next, we'll move to the approval of claims. Can I get a motion to approve the claims for payment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion with respect to that, the approval of the financials? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we'll move to the bank reconciliation. This is just for your information only. Does anybody have any questions with regard to that?
Thank you, Susie.
Hearing none, we'll move to item C, which is the revenues and expenses to date. Again, that's a informational only. Is there any discussion or questions that anybody has with regard to those? Hearing none, we'll move to the petitions itself. First, I'd like, is Ian? Yeah, there you are. I introduced to you Ian Clement. He's the new high school principal. If you want to come forward for a second. If you want to just give him a quick rundown about yourself, and I'll give you 29, no.
I'll set my timer.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for having me here. I just wanted to come and introduce myself. Ian Clayman. I'm coming from Cedar Rapids Prairie, where I spent the last 3 years as an associate principal. Was at Cedar Rapids, Washington for 18 years. Before that, teaching math and physics. Started my career at Center Point way back. Happy to be here. Phenomenal support already in the first month. I would say I'm excited to get going, but I'm going. And so I've appreciated all the support of the community and the folks around me at the school as well. I've had a chance to visit with quite a few folks in the community, but would welcome more opportunities as they present themselves. So thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself.
Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to item B, which is the city manager recruitment proposals. And since Mr. Henson's here, do you want to come forward and?
Thank you. Mayor, Council, thank you very much for having us here today. My name is Brent Henson. This is Pat Callahan that would be assisting me on the search. Appreciate your time tonight, and we'll try to be very concise with our statements here. I know you have a busy meeting. I do want to give the mayor credit. If you hadn't been, if I hadn't known you were new, I would have thought you were a longtime veteran. You're doing a very nice job so far. So,
Thank you.
all right. Well, thanks again for having us here. I did hand out a presentation beforehand that kind of gives you an overview of who we are and what we do. Of course, I think you guys are already off on the right foot here as you seek to fill this very important position, engaging the services of a consultant. I think that we bring a lot of value to the process and some, both contacts and also some structure to the process that'll help you get the best result. And that would really be true of any any consultant. So I think that you're off on the right foot as far as that goes. Things that I would like to just emphasize, of course, as you can see in the presentation that we've handed out to you, we're extremely experienced. We have 3 consultants that work together, different areas of the state. Pat is based in Anamosa, I'm based in Mason City, and Mark Jackson, our 3rd consultant, is based in Story City. We've all been in the field of public administration and in city management for a long time. I'm the newest of the group, as having 19 years of experience in city management. So we're working in city management and working with city managers day in, day out. We really know the group that are going to be your potential candidates. We would have a very good idea of who might be a good fit and who might not be a good fit for you. And of course, we'd seek to learn more as we get into the process. Certainly, we emphasize in the presentation that I handed out to you, we try to have a customized process. We're not going to try to be one size fits all. We're going to listen to what you have to say. We're going to take that input and help form the profile and the idea of the types of candidates that we want to really seek out. Some things that really set us apart as a search firm. Number one, really that personal touch. We reach out by phone to 40 to 50 candidates per search, generally speaking. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a little bit less. But we make those direct contacts. There's very few search firms that do that sort of legwork. We're not only looking for, okay, who might be out there in the market looking, but who has the right credentials and who would be a good fit, but maybe they don't even realize it yet. We had a search about a year ago where we had a candidate that through this process we had reached out to, just a phenomenal, very experienced manager, had never even thought about the idea of applying for the position that we were filling, and he actually ended up getting the position. That is the type of work I think that we can really point to as the extra value that we're able to provide with our network. Other things about our searches, we really take a team-building approach. I mentioned that, I think, a couple times in the presentation that we have. The idea being that, I believe you've had an excellent manager here in recent years, and he has helped form a team that has been successful as an administrative team. He's helped the council and the mayor work together as a team, et cetera. There'll be different dynamics with a new manager. And so you definitely want to have, no matter who that person is, obviously we need to make sure that that person is skilled, is experienced, has the necessary qualifications, but we also want to find that person that's going to fit into that role well, that's going to be able to help the administrative team and the mayor council team coalesce and help Independence be as successful as possible. We really think that the process that we have really helps attain that for the cities that we work with. We're looking at that throughout the process. We're trying to have an inclusive process. We're trying to have a process that is transparent. We're trying to make sure that this, ultimately, that we give you all the tools and the new manager all the tools to be successful in the position, and that everybody's on the same page, and then you can move forward together and and be successful. A final thing that I'd underline that really we hang our hat on is we're very, very thorough in our background work and background checks. The last thing you want to do is get to the end of a search and then find out, oh, well, we really like this person, but there's this red flag that we didn't know about till the end, or that comes out afterwards, even worse. We are very, very thorough and have a many-step process to our background checks. We've never had an issue, and we work very hard to make sure there never is an issue. So I'd be happy to take any questions you have, otherwise, or Pat, if you have any comments.
Some of you folks may remember me. I did your goal setting for you here a few years ago.
Yep.
And also I've done a search here not too distant past that your city attorney can identify with. When he chose to leave the city administrator field and be city attorney, I helped do it. I basically did the search, Brent and I did it in Monticello, where he was at. So you have a reference for you right here if you want to talk to him. So,
I know you,
I worked for Pat 40 years ago.
yes.
How old I am.
I'm to that point in my life, most everybody I'm working with wasn't even born when I started.
Yeah, but Doug's been on the field a few years, but back in the day, he was the pool manager in
Was a lifeguard in
Macokota.
Macokota?
Or a lifeguard in Macokota,
Lifeguard,
so, yeah, sorry, yeah.
so I know you've got
Grew
a,
up in Anamosa, so I won't hold that against you that you got hired a Monticello guy for city attorney.
You
Yeah,
bet, you bet.
so I know you've got a very comprehensive list of things that you're going to do, and you're giving us your best estimate in terms of what it's going to cost individually for each of the programs. But in terms of getting to the bottom line, in terms of cost, if something is fast, takes less time than it's expected, you have a not-to-exceed number as opposed to an actual number. Is that true?
Sure. Well, so basically, the way that we prepare the fee estimate is where we will end up unless there are changes of scope that lessen the amount of work that we have to do, or changes of scope that increase the amount of work that we have to do. And either way, we would communicate with the city and be very open as far as that goes. I would say that on the vast majority of our searches, what we have quoted there will be exactly what we charge. We have a pretty good idea of the different scope, the difference, or the type of scope that you need to be successful with this sort of search. The only thing that would come in is, like we have had, for example, there was one city that we worked with because they really did most of the position profile. They had a lot of that information put together. We said, oh, this really took us half the amount of time that we intended to spend on the position profile. In that case, what we ended up doing is actually bartering with them and said, well, we'll come do the city manager's 6-month review at no charge. We'll structure that and do that review at no charge to make up for the fact we save money on the position profile. So certainly, we're flexible as far as that goes. Like I said, though, I think we've got a pretty good idea as far as the scope and the amount of time that it takes to put into it. And so I think that's right where we'll end up being, but we would certainly communicate if we're going to be any different.
Very good. Anybody else with questions? Okay, thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I do.
Oh, yeah, please.
Do you have like an average time that this process takes?
You bet.
For your
You bet. Usually what we tell people, I did provide you a schedule in the proposal. It's usually about 3 to 4 months to fill a position like this, plus then you'd have to keep in mind whatever notice that person would have to give at their current position, which usually is about 30 to 45 days. So really, it's a process. It doesn't happen fast. Certainly, you'll need to make some provisions for kind of what the interim looks like after Al moves on and before the new person's on board. But generally speaking, and the schedule that we provide, we'll stay right on that schedule. There wouldn't be, it would be only if something would come up that the council would, or that the city would communicate back to us, hey, we want to take more time on this aspect or that aspect, that schedule would differ any. So, you bet.
And the other question I have is, do you have like a success rate?
Well, 100% so far. I mean, I think as far as that goes, there's a lot of, certainly we're going to see this through until we get you a city manager on board that's going to be successful in the position. We're going to definitely see that through. If, probably what I would consider the worst case happens, that we go out, we advertise, we go through a round of interviews, and the council's just like, we don't have a person that we can pick from this list. We would go and we would re-advertise, we would work with you on that. We'd consider that part of the scope of the original search, unless there were a whole bunch more added to it for whatever reason. But we're certainly very committed to your success, and that's the end goal. I mean, really, it does us no good to come in here and not finish the job. We're here to make sure you get the right person, put you in the right position. I think I mentioned in the presentation, we're trying to make sure that we have a good mutual fair agreement between the parties, between the new manager and the city, to make sure that we're starting that person off on the right foot. We're, of course, there's always, you're trying to find that balance because you guys are responsible to the taxpayers, so you're trying to find that right balance in that negotiation, but trying to put that person on the right foot so that they can be successful. And then ultimately, we're going to hopefully be able to provide you some things during the search that will also help from not just the financial side or the attraction side, but then also the retention side to be able to help that person be successful. As I mentioned, we do reviews, either 6-month or 1-year reviews. We can kind of do that as an add-on if that would be something that would be desired. To make sure that, just to make sure that you're doing it, number one, and then to, make sure that that feedback is good feedback so that person can be successful in the position and perform as you guys
So basically what you're
desire.
saying is that nobody that you suggested to a city
Mm-hmm.
to be a city manager has failed.
The only one that we have had in recent years, we had one a couple years ago where we did have one person that only lasted a year in the job. And that was something that, an issue that was not brought to us at all during the exhaustive process that we had. Essentially, it was a case where the city clerk really didn't like that person and didn't want that person to have the job, and so undermined them very badly. We certainly will look for those red flags to make sure that that's not the case. She seems delightful. She would not do anything like that. But no, so ultimately, there are things that we don't control that can come up. I would say that, we've been doing searches for many years, and the vast majority of them, it's 5 years plus for the person, and really that's what we'd be aiming for independence. It really needs to be, when you look at, your municipal projects that you're doing, you guys are doing a lot of projects, it takes 5 years from, envisioning it to completing it. So you want to have somebody that's going to be in that seat for a good amount of time to help you guys be successful and have that continuity.
I like the point that you said that you follow up after the, maybe the appointment, to see, like 6 months, how things
Yep.
are going.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good point.
Good.
Thank you again, appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well set up there. Ms. Hanson's going to appear via Zoom, so we'll get this set up here real quickly. She'll be up here, right?
Right behind you.
Do you know her?
Yes. Not well.
I would just
But,
read
yeah.
and Steph, I wouldn't add any questions.
One question would be, how many applicants they'd expect? I think it's kind of a tight market to find applicants.
40 to 50.
Wow. I missed that. Sorry. I do know one other city where, because of Pat knew somebody and called them to apply, and they got the job there too, and it's not the one he's.
Elizabeth, can you hear us?
It's not like it. Doesn't look like it. You got the volume on? It's on mine.
Hear me.
Now we can hear you.
Just lost your picture, but. I'm so sorry. Can you see me? I'm in there too.
There you
There we
go.
go.
And then do you have Candy on his phone?
Candy is there, yes.
Wonderful. Are we on?
You are.
Yes, you're it.
Welcome.
Okay, great. Well, hey, thank you everyone for accommodating this new hybrid way of learning and presenting and submitting proposals and such. I'm Elizabeth Hansen with Midwest Municipal Consulting. I've been in business since 2016. Candy Randall Sullivan is also on the call. We are in 2 different locations, so I do appreciate you giving us this opportunity to submit the proposal. much like Hinson Consulting, Candy has over 29 years of experience working for the city of Des Moines, and I have over 18 years of experience as a city manager myself as well. And we together have worked on 14 proposals in the last 2 years, and actually not just proposals, but searches from police chiefs, city managers, park and rec directors, and library directors. So we do have that local, again, just like Hinson Consulting, we have that local touch, the connections throughout the state. We know many city clerks and city administrators and directors across the state. What else can I tell you? Probably some things that, that are very familiar and is the same process that we go through. I know you asked the question about what is the hourly rate or how do you break down, and really what I've done for each of the tasks that are in your proposal is kind of gone by an hourly of basically $50 an hour, and then added in any time for basically your taxes and all those other expenses that would go along with those tasks. So really the proposed timeline is very similar. It's 3 to 4 months. It has been condensed depending on some of the clients may have, may want to change the interview days. So that just is something that gets discussed when the actual timeline is approved by the leadership or the city council, depending on if you have a committee. But for the most part, I think we're pretty equal. Some things that holds us apart from maybe some of the other search firms is, again, we're a targeted, an Iowa targeted small business. We're the extension of staff, so like Brent talked about with doing the profile, we have that time to be able to come and interview the staff, the elected officials, community leaders, and find out what it is that you're looking for in your next city manager, so that we can match very closely with what you're looking for. The profile is very descriptive of what your goals are, what the characters are, the abilities and skills that you're looking for in your next manager. Again, we're very knowledgeable of the market. We have connections. We are members of the Iowa League of Cities. We are in front of city managers and elected officials and city clerks at the Iowa League of Cities every year. So I have a booth there, and I'm hoping that with the proposed timeline that we can get the profile and the advertisement out before the Iowa League of Cities, which we will have a booth at this September up in Waterloo. So I think the timing is perfect for this position. I know you'd asked some things about qualified folks. One thing I wanted to add is, on the reference checks that I do for the background, I get, it's about really 95% response on getting those references, so that I can get the thorough background check. I use a third party on doing the background for their credit check, and I also do a DCI background check as well. So we do not just local Iowa courts online and such. It's very extensive. Let's see what else I can share with you. The least amount, I know that, with the great resignation, the number of applicants have gone down from the most I had was 45. The least I had was 7. However, what I'm very pleased to announce is that all of those 7 are qualified per the requirements of the position. So I'm very happy with what we're getting, and that success rate is, is probably 98%, similar to Hinson, because there's variables in the leadership, and like you had said, maybe there's some staff, maybe they start on the wrong foot, but you just aren't going to get some of that information out of the interview process. Again, process very similar. We would love to work for independents, and we wish Al the very best.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? think you covered it all, so. No questions?
Very good.
The information packet was very helpful, thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize, it's going to get really fuzzy here while I go sit back down.
So, Council, I'm looking for a motion to approve a particular one of these firms. So if someone would like to make a particular motion to, that we approve the recruiting proposal for whichever of the two of them, and then a second, and then we can move forward with the discussion at that point. So if I could have a motion as to one or the other of them.
I would make a motion that we move forward with Hinson.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, so let's have a discussion about whether or not the council wants to approve the Hinson firm for the search.
I have one question that I've been asked. Is there anybody in-house that's capable of doing this position?
The answer is no.
I would offer to you that anybody in-house that's interested should probably go through a formal process regardless, because if you don't, you wear the badge of, it was just handed to you, you were not actually the most qualified. I think we have some good people. If they're interested, I think that they would stack up very well with the search, but going through the search would still afford you and the community with the best possible candidate.
Thanks.
I kept thinking that when we did the city clerk search, that one of them was I thought it was,
That was the one, I think, that was from Strawberry.
it wasn't,
No.
Other discussion with regard to this topic?
Is it Hanson or Hinson?
Okay, the motion is with regard to Hinson, which is the first firm that we heard
First
from.
one.
Okay?
Yes, it's Hanson. No, I'm kidding.
So this would, if there's no further discussion, then this would be a roll call vote, and
Wait, what makes, I mean, there's hardly been any discussion about Hinson versus the other firm. I mean.
I'm all for any discussion that
I mean,
anybody would like to
What
make.
makes Hinson better than the second one, I guess?
I guess for me, I was just looking at how important this position is and the amount of experience that Hinson has. Neither one to me is a bad choice, but I'm just looking at, this is a very important decision for our community because I think it was said, we have a lot of projects, both in the works and that we're working towards. And so having someone, as I said, with the experience that we would need. And I think one of the things that we'll find out that we miss down the road is, because like we'll bring something up, why is it that way? And our current city manager is able to give us the background behind that. And I think we really need somebody with that ability to do that.
I would kind of echo what Catherine said. I've had the opportunity to been in several seminars and things with Mr. Callahan, and he's excellent, and I know he brings a lot to the table as far as experience in city government. I haven't had as much opportunity to interact with Mr. Hinson, but I know with Mr. Callahan on there, we'd get some good sound leadership on finding a replacement.
I do have a question for you though, Callahan. How did Anamosa sneak by you? They did the 2022 one.
Well, let's put it this way. I like this council much better. We'll just leave it at that.
Sometimes being the hometown choice can get you a whole lot
Yeah.
of credit, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Did you get an answer as far as the cost from Hinson and Associates?
It's in the packet.
Yeah, it's in the packet itself.
What's that?
It's in the packet itself,
It is?
right. Both of them have numbers in the packet.
Okay.
And, you know, I can tell you that the lesser expensive one for us is Hanson, not Hinson, but that shouldn't be the deciding factor in terms of how you decide on it, but you can certainly consider that. Jen, is there something in particular that you wanted to say about one or the other that you were?
No, it was just such a
No, I heard,
snap position,
No.
snap decision. It's like, you know, I mean, I think they're both quality candidates, so.
I don't think we would have brought them here if they weren't both quality firms. It's just a matter of we have to select one, and we can only select one. So,
I
other,
like the fact that the second one is female-driven, to be honest.
good. Anything from anybody else? Tom, do you have anything else?
I'm just looking up about how much it costs for Henson Consulting. I could see where Elizabeth Hanson listed a cost. Okay, here we go. Okay. Seems to be a little bit of a difference between the two as far as the cost.
There is. That's why I asked the question that I asked.
Okay. I guess what I should have asked Elizabeth is if there's any follow-up. Because I think that's important with this too.
Is your question of Elizabeth whether or not there's follow-up services after the selection is made?
Yes,
And would there be cost incurred?
yes.
Did you hear that, Elizabeth?
I did. I just didn't know if you wanted me to. Okay, so just like Brent said, it would be an add-on to the dollar amount that was proposed to you. That would be an add, like an an a la carte, I guess you'd call it. Certainly we can do that. That's not a problem. It's just not something that I do, like an a la carte menu of things. But I have no trouble. Like, I have an HR credential and can easily put together, an evaluation piece that goes along with that. So it's not a problem.
Anything from anybody else? I'm going to call for a vote then. So what you're voting on here at this moment in time is only with regard to the Henson firm. So if it passes, then the Henson firm would be the one. If it doesn't pass, then we would need another motion with respect to the Hanson firm. Ms. Hanson's firm, okay? So roll call vote on that, please.
Houston,
No,
Hannah,
Yes.
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Callahan.
No.
Okay, so that passes 5-2. So
I'd like to personally thank both firms for their time and their effort here, and I will tell you, you don't go wrong with either one of them. So, thank you both.
thank you for
Thanks,
coming.
Al.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for coming as well. Okay, let's move the agenda along if we could. We're now on the hearings and ordinances. So the first one is the Code Section 69.30, which deals with the loading zones. This is our second reading. So I need a motion to approve the second reading for the Code Section 69.30 loading zones. Again, this is a...
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote on that, please?
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Callahan.
Yes.
Houston.
yes,
That passes 7-0. The next item on the agenda is item B, which is to set, that's right? Is to set the public hearing date to amend Code Section 1.15, which is the fines and fees schedules related to Code Section 12205, which is licensing fees for, this is
Peddlers and
peddlers and solicitors. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is a motion to set the public hearing date for August the 22nd of 2022 at 5 PM at City Hall Council Chambers, and in order to amend Code Section 1.15 fines and fees schedule related to Code Section 12205 license fees. Do I have that motion?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. This is a,
Simple consent.
I'm sorry?
Simple consent.
It's a simple consent, so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we'll move to item C, which is to set a public hearing for Code Section 20.05, which is the city attorney attendance at meetings. This is a motion to set the public hearing date for August the 22nd, 2022, 5 o'clock PM at City Hall Council Chambers for an amendment of Code Section 20.05, city attorney attendance at meetings. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This is also, all in favor then?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 7-0. Next, we'll move to item D, which is to set the public hearing for Code Section 5203, which is mowing of properties definition. This is a motion, I need a motion to set a public hearing date for August the 22nd of 2022, 5 o'clock PM in the City Hall Council Chamber for amendment of Code Section 52.03, mowing of properties definitions. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is this also a simple consent? Tom?
Al mentioned that the possibility of maybe having the city requiring a yearly exemption, which we don't have right now. Is that going to be included with this, or?
It would not be included with this particular one. That would be something else that we could discuss, and we could have a separate, we'd need a separate a separate resolution with respect to that issue, would we not?
Actually, when you get into your public hearing, if you decide to make that or change that language in section 52.03, you could do it at that point.
5203 is just definitions where we're defining what noxious weeds are.
Right, we have
Oh,
to go
I'm
further.
sorry,
than
you would
that.
have to have a second public hearing to do that. I'm sorry, you're correct.
Hadn't
Right.
we talked about just doing it piecemeal, like when somebody has a specific request?
I think the idea here that this particular public hearing is only to set the definitions. The other things we can bring up, and we can certainly set as far as future ones, but this is just definitions,
Okay.
okay? So this is a simple majority then. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Again, that passes 7-0. The next is item number E, which is to set a public hearing to amend city code that affect the 2022 legislative changes. So I'm looking for a motion to set the public hearing, again, same date, August 22nd, 2022, 5 o'clock PM, City Hall Council Chambers, to amend the city codes that are affected by the 2022 legislative changes, and these principally deal with alcoholic beverage control and fireworks and, is there something else?
Chapter 75, ATVs. and-
Yeah, and ATV is snowmobiles. So do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. The simple majority, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0 also. That should complete that section, so I think we're moving to resolutions now.
Yep.
Resolutions A is to accept the work covering Enterprise Rise project. This is a motion to accept the work covering the Enterprise Rise project. First, I need a motion.
Make a motion?
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, discussion. Yes, sir.
Very briefly, I'll state that this does cover the work on the Enterprise Drive Rise Extension project. That was the extension of Enterprise Drive east and north, extension of Larson Lane up to the new Priest facility. So the contractor has completed that work in substantial compliance with the plans and specifications. We do recommend acceptance of those improvements. The total bid on the original project was $501,709.99. Total construction completed was $493,885.42, so about $8,000 under the original contract price.
And is this payment in full, or is there a holdback on this at all?
The only thing that is held back is the retainage on the project, which is 5%, and we've communicated with the city clerk. She's going to release that retainage not sooner than 30 days after the improvements are accepted, assuming that the motion carries tonight.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion on that? Okay, this is a roll call vote on this.
Kurt?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brasada?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Callahan?
Yes.
Houston?
Yes.
Hannah?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Item B under the resolutions, this is the professional services agreement. This is for a motion to enter into the contract with Strand for the designing of the new plant. Is that Is that the right motion?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, do I have the motion then?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second then? Please, thank you. Discussion on that, any discussion with regard to that?
This is everything, when looking at this, nothing had changed since we had our discussions when they came in. It's
This-
just, everything is the same.
This reflects the
moving forward.
presentation that you had last week at the committee meeting.
Okay. I didn't think anything had changed, but I wanted to double check.
I was looking in the back of the room to Travis to say, has anything changed? No updates, okay, thank you. Nope, you're good from right there.
Stay right where you are, don't you move. Any further discussion, Tom? Anything from you?
Nope.
Okay, everybody good then? So
It's
this
going
is,
to be tough to pay for this and the existing debt we have. I mean, it's going to pinch us.
well, this particular, this is the design work, and I
No, but I
understand.
mean, the total price.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the design itself, I understand, is paid for by the,
This will come out of the wastewater treatment plant revenues. This is the design phase. The funding of the plant itself will be a separate discussion a couple of years down the road.
okay, if there's no
We
further,
don't really have too many choices with this.
no, we don't. Okay, anybody else then on discussion? Okay, so this is again a roll call vote, please.
Prisada,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Callahan.
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
That passes 7-0 also. We'll now move to item C, which is the Planning and Zoning Commission appointment. This is the person to take my place on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I need a motion to accept Stephanie Saylor to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Again, this is,
Very qualified.
I agree with you. Okay, this is again a roll call vote, please.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Callahan.
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Prisada.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item D, which is the first part of the resolution establishing the use of the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act funds for third-party nonprofit organizations. So I'm looking for a motion to approve a resolution establishing the use of the American Recovery Plan Act funds for third-party nonprofit organizations. The motion itself is just a motion to establish the discussion on the issue. So if I could have the motion first and a second, then we can have a discussion about it.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, in terms of the discussion itself, we've got 4 different nonprofit organizations, so I'd like to have a discussion in terms of whether or not, what the council feels about whether this is the time to move forward with these, whether there's some that we want to discuss now and others that we want to hold on to for later. That's what the discussion should be, and then we'll talk about the actual resolution itself that you'd be voting on.
I would move we table it. I've examined some of the PPE on the nonprofits.
Okay, you want a motion or you want a discussion about tabling it first? Okay,
Motion.
is there a second then on the motion to table?
I would.
Okay, we have a motion and a second with regard to tabling this issue. Is there a discussion with regard to tabling this? Okay, then I won't have any discussion on it, gosh darn it. So then we would have a vote with regard to all in favor of tabling the issue. Oh, okay. Roll call then with respect to whether or not we're tabling this motion then.
Or later in this meeting if you choose.
Okay.
Tabling it?
Yes.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be discussing it till the next meeting.
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurtz,
No.
Prisada,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
That passes 6-1, so that part of it is tabled then. We'll now move to the second part, which is looking for a motion to approve the staff to proceed with the projects that were identified in order to prepare information in terms of possible funding and the viability of these programs. So first, I'm looking for the motion itself.
So moved.
Second that.
Okay, now, is there any discussion with regard to that? And we can take some of those out, we can include them all. You're not voting on funding any of these or approving any of these in total. All you're discussing is whether or not these are items that you feel is appropriate for us to move forward with the planning of. That's the,
Table that too, then?
Well, I think on this particular one, I would like personally to know what each of these is going to cost, because we won't know that until we give them permission to go out and seek out the cost of each of these things.
Okay.
And when we know that, then we can yay or nay it at that point.
Okay.
Does that
I
am I
think-
saying that correctly?
Absolutely. The challenge that we have is these are proposed projects for the ARPA funds. At no point has council said, yes, let's go and pursue this. We're giving you some numbers as our best guess. But we really don't have enough information to say, to give you to make a good decision to move forward or not. So I guess my request here is give staff permission to proceed with this. They'll bring it back. By virtue of the way this process works, they have to come back to you to have it included in a resolution anyway. You have to approve the funding, so you're not saying, we're absolutely going to build that inclusive part. You're giving staff permission. And that's just a step-by-step process to keep you in the loop as the project.
that would also include with regard to the inclusive part, we're trying to get a grant with regard to that. And so the sooner that this is passed by council so that we have the ability to move forward, the sooner we can move forward with the grant process as well.
And so then when we know the amounts of all of these, then that would give us an idea of what monies are left, and we could then, in my mind, look at some of the other things.
Absolutely, and you can decide at that point whether this is a feasible alternative for us and whether it's a project that we really want to proceed with, or whether it's a project that we're not interested at this particular time, or would be interested if we got other grant money from something else, or whatever the actual situation might be at that point. Okay, any further discussion on that?
I just got one comment.
Sure.
Out of the $912,000, 912, Parks and Rec is so another department, and we don't mention anything about these things.
Well, we do have the streets would be part of, we do have the comprehensive stormwater study that's included in there, so that is one thing that we do have in there, but I agree with
I'm
those three
talking about
projects.
work actually being done.
True, you're absolutely right.
That study, we talked about that one. We have a lot of information through Crawford already on that one, so that's one I'm not even interested in seeing us pursue.
We do need to, that's okay.
I suggest that, if I may, you take a look at the projects, flush out the details,
Right.
and have it come back to you if you want to look at them one at a time with the information, or as a group, what have you. But at this point, staff is not, we have not allowed staff to go getting in front of the council on these projects yet. We have some cursory background that we've done, but nobody's really pursued the projects aggressively. That needs to be, that permission needs to be granted before we can go any further.
Well,
the
with
wish
Parks
list.
and Rec.
For all of them. I'm going to tell you that all of these projects are kind of sitting in that same place. You can make those decisions as you move forward, but for right now, I'm uncomfortable with staff doing more work on this without your blessing. And that's really what's being asked for here tonight.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, so this is a roll call vote to move this, to approve staff to move forward with these particular projects to obtain information for us so we can make further decisions later, okay? So that's the vote. Roll call vote, please.
Callahan,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Persauer,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Now we'll move to other business. First item there is the debt obligation report. This is information only. This is an annual report that we file with the treasurer of the state. So the question, does anybody have any questions with regard to this report or any other information about that? Okay. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay.
One of the citizens that is in mine looked at this, they looked at the agenda, and they looked at the debt, and their question was, why didn't we, instead of putting a Band-Aid on the wastewater treatment plant, why didn't we invest in that at that point and focus our money, because that's gonna be the most expensive project we'll do during my lifetime,
Sure.
over 25 to $30 million. And yet, we racked up debt, it's gonna impinge on other projects, and hopefully the economy stays good, otherwise, you hate to see any reduction in force or anything.
The decisions on the wastewater treatment plant almost 5 years ago were based on the information that we had from the DNR, knowing the nutrient reduction study would be coming, knowing that the nutrient reduction limits were changing. So we had to make some improvements to the plant in order to buy the 10 years that were estimated it would take from that point to have a new plant online, but trying to wait long enough to get the latest nutrient reduction limits so we knew what the target was to build the plant to hit. So the improvements that we made were important at the time. You can see by the price of the plant, it was a Band-Aid, it was temporary, but it was very strategic, the move by the council to buy that time to know what our target is going to be, which now we have. But it was not just trying to kick the can down the road. It was, let's find out what our target is, and we didn't have it at the time.
Well, this person contacted the DNR. I didn't realize that they could, or if they, how they would, but they did. And the nutrient reduction, the differences, based on what they would have done in 2017, when we got the report on the nutrient reduction study, based on that, the difference, the DNR guy told him the difference would have been able, the design would have been able to take care of it. I mean, a modern design, they could have enhanced it or added specifics to it to meet the reduction.
So you had that cost on either end of it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's either way. You're gonna have that.
Well, I think part of what we did on the Band-Aid was we had a lot of leaking valves and things that
Yes.
had to be fixed, or we would have had to shut down certain parts of the plant. And that really was the impetus to getting it done.
One of your digesters was not functioning,
I know.
as an example.
That
So
was in that 2017 report.
it was in that 2017 Band-Aid that we put together for you. There's several pieces of that project that came to a little over $1 million, which is not a small amount of money. But they were very important to the functionality of the plant and getting us to where we're at today.
This person was very persuasive, and I could tell they had done their homework and met. I just wish we had done that sooner, because the cost would have been less, and
I appreciate that, Mike. In terms of the item that's on the agenda, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to push you along.
I understand.
But, okay, so let's move next to agenda item B, which is the airport CIP purchase. So I'm looking for a motion here to authorize the airport manager to move forward with the purchase of the new pickup truck with the plow and trade in the current airport pickup, which I understand he's got a good deal on the trade-in as well. So can I have the motion first? Okay, second on that? Any additional discussion required on this?
Was this the same?
It is, and it's, the amount is in the attachment to your, correct. And then the trade-in value that they got on the other one was $3,500, which we found out. So that's a good amount on the trade-in as well. So, any other discussion on this? I'm not trying to push you guys, but I know.
That was my thought when I saw that. They probably do need to be in there.
So this is a roll call vote on this. Will you approve, please?
Houston,
Yeah.
Hannah, Kurt,
Yes.
Goddard,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Callahan.
Passes 7-0. Next, I have the lease for the 1013 Second Street Northeast. This is one of the FEMA leases that we have. So the motion is to approve a one-year lease on that property located 1013 Second Street Northeast. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Do I have any discussion with regard to that?
Is this the first time they've had this piece of land?
Yes.
So each year this will come up?
It will. It's only a one-year lease. No further discussion? Again, this is a roll call vote, please.
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Callahan.
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Now we move to item D, which is the Buchanan County Economic Development Funding Request. As you may recall, this is the request that we participate in a housing study by contributing $2,000 in funding to that study. So I need a motion to approve that $2,000 funding for the study by the Buchanan County Economic Development. Do I have that motion?
I'll
So-
make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion about this issue? I know we've talked about it previously.
And it was due. We'd done one
We're
previously.
required to have
but-
it every 5 years?
We are.
If we want funding through the state, yes,
The last one was,
Without that, you can't get any state money.
that's
Well,
correct.
it's
For
a-
example, the housing tax credits and the workforce housing, you have to have this in order to qualify for it, to show that there's a need or demand for it.
And it is helpful. I know we did one when we were looking at things for the high school as far as what the needs in the community were. It was very helpful.
and our last study was 2017. So, any discussion on that? Again, this is a roll call vote then, please.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Callahan.
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next is item number E, which is the Streets Operator Parks Laborer position job description. This is a motion to approve a Streets Operator Parks Laborer job description for hire. As you may recall, this is the issue where the two departments are actually going to share the employee itself. So first I need the motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about this further?
When someone retires, this is the position they're going to take. And they're going to start before that.
Currently, there is a vacancy in the street department, and we anticipate a second
Any other discussion on that? Any other discussion? Okay, then this is again a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen. Callahan. Houston.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next is item number F, which is the police department staffing increase. This is a motion authorizing the police department to increase the staffing level to 12 full-time licensed officers. As you may recall, we're losing an officer at the end of the year because they're going into the reserve. So we're trying to, because it's difficult to obtain an officer early on, we want to try to move the process up as quickly as we possibly can. So do I have a motion first?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Other discussion with regard to this?
Now, when the officer returns from their National Guard tour, will we remain at 12 or will we reduce to 11?
Yes, that's what my proposal was, is to expand by one when the officer returns. So on the fiscal 23-24 budget, which is not set yet, obviously, we'll see about 33 to 36,000 on that budget of an increase for 23-24. And then the 24-25 will have the full increase because we'd only have that overlap for that second half of 23-24.
Thank you, Chief.
How much overtime would result if we did?
The overtime will be actually dropped due to this, and the reason why is because right now, my investigator works overtime during times when I can't schedule him due to he's a second shift. I'll actually be able to move him to a more palatable shift for less overtime. So the overtime will actually drop during this, as we've also seen the overtime drop from the other.
But what I'm saying is, if we don't approve this and just go from 11 to 10 until we get back, how much overtime would there be? Or would there be?
For 14 months.
There would be, with the 14 months of it, we'd probably see, rough estimate, upwards of 20, but I also can't put a number on it either because I don't know based upon what's going to happen. So my biggest fear would be also if we lose somebody else, we go back down to 9, and then we're at that point. But like I had stated before, this was a proposal that I wish to propose to you at some point anyway, but it would make it easier for me to hire one and then to expand it out by then. It's not going to get me the extra officer that I want as quickly as I want, but there's no reason then to not wait for the extra year to go by.
Chief, I've got one other question. Trying to look at succession planning. We have retirements that might do things.
me.
Yeah, I'm just
I thought we
I
specifically
was trying to
told
be
you
that
couldn't
very
do that.
diplomatic, but
So, no, that's fine. And I made that clear to you when I stepped into the job. I gave you a minimum number of years that I would do. Part of my succession planning for my department is the fact that I'm training my number two right now to be able to step up to that role. And, you know, I had talked with him after we got done with that hiring process as to what he was lacking and what we could do to move him up there. Just in the 10 months that I've been here, we've already moved him to that point because he's attended more learning conferences and things like that, and he's been a part of things that he was never a part of before, and I want to continue that. My goal is no matter what, if I'm out for 6 months because of an injury, that he will pick up and take over, and that the sergeant will pick up and take over where the captain is. Part of that comes from being able to have the officers there so that we have that job to do. But if we don't have the officers there, I'm out writing parking tickets instead of being inside, although you just saw me at Walmart. It's part of what I try to do all the time, but it would mean that we'd have more administration on the street instead of in the office taking care of these things. And then as far as the numbers go, I looked at the other numbers, and you'd have to get with Susie on that to find out, because on the benefit side, I'm not really sure how some of that breaks down, because I know it doesn't equate out into 1/11 of what we pay specifically, because if we add one, it doesn't necessarily make it that 10% more or 11% more. But, so I looked at it, but basically that's where the increases would be. And again, we have the time to plan for it in the future. It's not like this is going to come out of pocket until that 23-24 fiscal year budget, and then only at a half of that year.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Other discussion with regard to that?
I guess my comment would be, I'm just seeing a lot of people doing a lot of overtime, and it's not a really good thing for you to keep and retain good people. It's just really hard on your workforce. You have too much. It sounds good on paper, and it sounds good when you get a paycheck.
Okay, so, ready? Then this is a roll call vote again, please.
O'Laughlin,
No.
Jensen,
Yes.
Callahan. Yes. Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurtz,
yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
Passes 6-1. Next, we move to item G, which is the strategic planning directions, goals 1 through 3. So the motion would be to adopt the strategic planning directions 1 through 3, which have been discussed with council in the past, and we discussed it also at the committee of the whole. So first, I'm looking for a motion itself and a second, and then we can have some discussion if we want to
So
on that.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is there discussion with regard to those?
So this doesn't commit any financial resources. It's all dependent on what is available. It's just,
This is the council adopting the work plan for staff to continue moving forward in the directions that you set at this time. And really, it is our marching orders. It's not saying, hey, we're going to fund every one of these, but it is the direction that the staff is working for based on your direction.
You'd have to come back to council before anything that involves funding would actually be approved.
They have to bring the project back to you if there's funding, yes.
Other discussion on that? Okay. Again, this is a roll call vote, and this is only the strategic planning directions 1 through 3.
Jensen,
Yes.
Callahan.
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
yes.
Passes 7-0. Next item is item H, which is the strategic planning directions, goal number 4, which is the modification of the handbook itself, the personnel policy manual. So first, I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion with regard to those items? And remember, from the discussion, there are 2, 3, 4, 5 items that came out of the committee that discussed this, and you'd be, this is not changing, is this changing compensation?
No, this, in essence, this is the 4 items that affect the employee handbook. The 5th one is just a recommendation for budget process when you get to that point. There are 4 items, including changing the new employee accumulation of or realization of vacation at 6 months instead of waiting a year. They'd get one of their 2 weeks at 6 months, one at another week at the full year. So currently, they get 2 weeks at the end of a year. Bereavement leave for all IPERS eligible employees. The effect of this would be some part-time employees would be eligible for bereavement leave where currently they are not. Deferred compensation match up to $1,000 annually for any employee who chose to participate in a deferred compensation plan. This would match them up to the $1,000.
What do
It
we-
is optional for them right now.
What do we currently do?
We don't match.
We have nothing right now. And increased vacation carryover from 40 hours on anniversary date to 80 hours, 4 days for firefighters instead of their current 2, for any employee over 15 years of service. So they just get to carry an extra week over.
Where would the $1,000 annual match come from?
That
For
would come out of your employee benefits levy.
Other discussion with regard to that? Anybody? Okay, again, this is a roll call vote.
Callahan?
Yes.
Houston?
No.
Hannah?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Crusader?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Okay, it passes 6 to 1.
Has
Last up.
the employee levy, has that, benefit levy, has that increased as benefits and so forth has increased?
Well, that's the only thing that levy can be used for is employee benefits,
Right,
your health
right,
insurance.
It
And
was an automatic escalator, we had to vote on whether to,
no, you vote on it based on the benefits that you provide to the employees, health insurance, what have you, but it is a direct cost to what the cost of those benefits.
Last item in this area is the engineer update. Brian, you want to tell us about?
Yes, very quickly. Highway 150, the south segment or south portion of that is complete with the exception of some punch list items. The contractor can complete those punch list items under local traffic, so that is open, back open to local traffic and businesses down there on the southern 2 blocks. The middle segment or segment 2, the contractor's preparing for paving and finishing up utilities, so likely before we meet again in 2 weeks, there'll be some more paving down if all goes as planned. And segment 3, as you know, was closed last week. That's the last block in the Second Street intersection. They've started removals, so the contractor's working hard toward that November 1st completion date. On the Liberty Trail South Extension is the second project I wanted to update you on. The concrete work is all complete on that project, so that one has moved quickly. Yes, in fact, we have. I'll let you talk about that question if you'd like to. The shouldering and seating are the only items that are remaining, and we anticipate the contractor will finish well ahead of that. So the cracks that you have likely seen, yep. They're right at about that 8-foot pattern. There's actually an expansion joint that is there underneath of that crack. They did not saw that, what they skimmed over the top there, so we're looking at some alternatives before we complete the project as to what they can do. There is supposed to be a crack there under the saw joint, but the saw joint wasn't completed, so we're looking, that's toward the southern end of the project. We'll address that before we ask you to accept the project. Any questions on either of those two, any other questions on either of those two projects?
Thank you, Brian.
I have one quick
Okay,
question
yes.
on the 6th Avenue South West Trail
Okay.
from Bland South.
Land, south.
There, with the recent rains that we had, there's some huge washouts in that shoulder area between the pavement and the walking trail.
In that steep segment?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the street department, I'm going to be talking with Brad to see if there's, they have a asphalt roller that's coming, either cold mix or perhaps some hot mix to put in that area because, yeah, the 6-inch rain or the 7-inch rain that we had about 8 weeks ago, we are seeing some wash out there. We could put some larger stone in there, but I think the right thing to do is probably put some, that more permanent surfacing in there.
I will tell you, the street department is taking that on because it was not part of the project design.
Okay.
They're aware of it, and they're looking at the option of exactly that, putting a bituminous surface in there that will hold, because on that hill, rock, gravel, you know,
Yeah,
That
we don't-
roller's gonna get a workout when it gets there.
if it gets through, they will.
It's in China. Okay, thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, last issue is reports by council members. Jen,
I don't have anything at this time.
Tom, do you have anything?
Just congratulations to the high school baseball team to make it to state and win a game.
Absolutely. Deb?
Nothing.
John?
Nothing, thank you.
Brian?
Good here, sir.
Nothing?
I think mine follows right along with what we were just talking about. The cemetery east entrance that's on 150 washes out with the rain, and it's all down there on the road, which makes it very hazardous. So that probably, I don't know if a roller on there, or if that's something private, I don't know. But
That's
that
a-
causes a big problem on 150.
They
That-
cleaned it up Saturday, and it's got it rained out again.
Right, that entrance is a private entrance, that is not a city,
But it goes on to 150.
which is, I'm not passing the buck, but if you get to that point, that's actually DOT responsibility. It's outside of our maintenance area. I know it's inside city limits, but on 150 there, that's part of the DOT's maintenance. And we'll pay attention to it, but
Just want to pass that on.
Thanks. Nothing from you? Nothing from you?
Just a reminder that if you want to attend the Iowa League Conference in Waterloo in September, please let me know, because I'd like to get everybody registered Friday, hopefully.
Last chance for you to speak?
I will just say thank you for 8 years of a very enjoyable time here, and I've appreciated it. I've appreciated working with you. And so, thank you.
Good luck, Al.
Yeah,
Thanks,
good luck.
Al. Good luck.
Yep,
We've
best
appreciated
wishes.
everything you've done.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?